Hello, and welcome to episode 39 of Friends of the Show. I am Stephen W. Skinner, and this is the podcast where I talk with some of the funniest and nicest people I know. They are the Friends of the Show. This week's friend is Darren Springer at Darren D. Springer on Twitter. Now, Darren and I have a lovely chat about his growing up in a small town, his achievements in higher education, and he candidly opens up about some past relationships. So thank you to everyone who sent a question for Darren. He really had fun with the answers. Listen for that. And follow FOTS Pod and send a question for a future guest. Now it's Friends of the Show, episode 39 with Darren Springer.
You can never quarantine the past. Pavement. Gold Soundz.
Pavement. Would it surprise you to know it's our first Pavement quote? So, good pick.
All right.
And welcome to the podcast, Darren.
Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. So, for the listeners, Darren is a very funny and nice comedian from Toronto, whom I met around the Toronto comedy scene back several years ago. For Darren, loves comedy. He does very funny writing. I'm talking about tweets, hilarious Facebook status updates, which I love, and also great articles published on CBC Comedy. Check him out. He also has stand-up comedy, as he does. He's a very funny comedian. He's done a podcast and also appeared on a podcast that just got a mention in the AV Club. So very cool, and very happy to have him joining me for this episode. Thanks, Darren.
Thanks for having me. I should say that podcast was mentioned in Split Cider, but I hate to start off.
Oh man, I already messed up.
That's all right. It's same difference.
It's good to get mentioned wherever you get mentioned.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll take either one.
So Everyone go check out Split Cider. So let's begin. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's get into your past. This is the WTF moment. Like, who are you guys?
Okay. Where
are you from? How you grow up? Let's lead in. Give a bit of a backstory, so that when we begin your story, people have some sense of what you're about.
Well, I'm from Glenboro, Manitoba. It's a village. Technically, it's 700 people. So obviously, my childhood was a little dull, just in the sense that there wasn't much to do. My whole world was school, and then like my parents' grocery store, and obviously home, and then the hockey rink and the library and the movie theater. And that was pretty much my whole life. Like that was kind of my whole world. So I guess probably I got into comedy or developed a sense of humor just out of a sense of boredom, lack of anything else to do.
Nothing going on, super small town. You have those the hot spots.
And I wasn't huge into snowmobiling or whatever, or curling or. I played hockey. I wasn't very good at it, so I sort of had to find my own fun a lot of the time. So ultimately, like I've heard said that usually people become comedians just out of a sense of either not having a happy childhood or just having a bored childhood. And so I was fairly bored a lot of the time and had to seek out my own fun and didn't have a whole lot of options as far as joining clubs or whatever. So
Well, that's better than that boredom into comedy is way better than just a dysfunctional family into comedy or whatever, or sad childhood.
My family is probably it's pretty good, but I had I was not the happiest child.
It was on the spectrum of dysfunction.
It was teetering, but it was probably more boredom. Like it was, just I would say it was an okay childhood, but it wasn't as if I grew up in the Hamptons or something. You had our struggles, but it was more like just
It was a 7 out of 10, child.
uneventful.
Nothing out of the ordinary to report.
Yeah. more or less, yeah.
So when did you come to Ontario in Toronto? Was it right after school, like high school or university? Did you do any post-sec?
Well, yeah, I did. I mean, I grew up in Glenroe, and then I moved to Winnipeg after high school.
The big city.
The big city, yeah, U of Manitoba, yeah. So I went to the U of M, got an English degree, and a master's degree, actually, in English.
Whoa! Congratulations. That's very cool. I did not know that.
Thanks, yeah. I'm clearly putting it to good use.
You're a master of the language.
Yeah, it's that's something I try to downplay because I feel like it makes me potentially sound smarter than I am. I don't want to get people's hopes up, but
you don't want people really ragging on your typos.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, look, I don't make typos.
I know. No. I'm sorry for throwing that accusation out there. You don't.
I don't mean to be on the defensive here, but mainly
That's true. I have never
seen the sense of like I'm not as well read as I could be.
All right.
Oh yeah, I haven't read that whole swath of literature or that whole era, even though being a master of English would seem to suggest that I had. So. All
right. Well, let's get into it. What haven't you read? What haven't you read that you want you think that you should have read?
Well, I mean,
just your top few.
I guess, yeah. I mean, there's a whole Milton. Like I haven't read any Paradise Lost. I haven't. I haven't read much of the Bible, which is kind of like foundational for.
That's a big one.
Yeah, for Western literature,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't read much. I mean, really, anything pre-20th century is a bit of a blind. So, I mean, I might know. Like, I've read a fair bit of Shakespeare because I've taken a Shakespeare course and stuff. But yeah, I would say anything, romantic. Like I read the basics, but then anything before that, before at least the 18th century, it's a bit haphazard for me.
It's a bit hazy. What's your favorite? What's your favorite Shakespeare?
That's
a tough question.
I would have to say, if I had to pick one, I would probably have to go. I suppose Hamlet. If I had to,
that's a classic answer. It's great. I mean, it's
but then I would love to. Yeah, it is a classic in the sense of like I read the 4 that everyone reads in high school, and then I took a course in lesser known Shakespeare. So so there's a whole I don't know much. I don't know King Lear. Well, that's another thing I should read. King Lear. Yeah.
Put it on the list.
Put it on the list. Yeah.
That sounds good. Yeah, I think I would say Othello. I like that one a lot.
Oh, a Gypsy? I haven't read. Well, no, I have read Othello. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of great machinations going on in that one.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, cool. So then you, after university, you made your way to the East?
Well, what happened was I got my master's, this would have been over a decade ago, and then I got into the PhD program in English at Queen's in Kingston.
For the listener, that's a fancy one.
Yeah.
Right? It's pretty fancy. I mean,
I guess.
It's like...
There was a time when it called itself the Harvard of the North.
Did it? Did they?
Yeah, kind of. It's I tell you, I checked those. It used to be somewhere in the top 100 or so on the sort of global rankings of schools.
Yeah, it's up there.
Post-academic schools. But yeah, I think it's fallen off now. I don't know exactly what's happened, but yeah, it's really not the Harvard of the North anymore. I mean, no offense to anyone going there right now. But,
is it the Brandeis of the North? Is it the how do we equate this? I don't know.
Maybe.
Is it the...
Maybe it's like you'd have to compare it to just like a good state school or something if you were going to compare it to U.S. schools. Like it's certainly doesn't seem Ivy League equivalent anymore.
All right. So it's like an NYU level now.
That might be a stretch too. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Shout out to all the Queens listeners.
Just keep at it. Just whatever. It's a university degree.
It's a university degree, and it's still good. I count it.
Yeah.
All right, very cool. So so then PhD.
Yeah, well, I did 4 years of it. Basically, the nice thing about Queens is that they fund their grad students. So I basically got paid to go to school. Like part of the package is being a teaching assistant. So I did that, and you got paid for that. And then on top of that, they give you funding additionally. So yeah, I basically spent 4 years working as a TA, taking courses in my first year, and then like after that, trying to figure out what I was going to write a thesis on, which I did not end up figuring out. Yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of get in, you're passionate about literature, but then I'm just one of those people who goes through the system and then just doesn't land on that one thing that they want to write a book-length project about. I knew American literature, probably 20th century is my interest, but yeah, as far as that one thing I wanted to focus on, couldn't land on it. And I know a few people in my year, and the kind of same thing happened to them. And then the other people I know, who I'm still friends with, are teaching, and they're doing great. But from what I've heard, it's still it can be a bit of a struggle. Like I don't know many who have tenure track positions or who are secure in that way. Like you kind of have to renew your contract yearly, and it's often not much money if you're a sessional instructor. So
dang. But so that track was like I don't know. You just kind of didn't want to go that way, right?
Yeah, it just didn't. I just felt like it wasn't. I wasn't cut out for it, and it just wasn't for me. And I just had started thinking more and more about doing comedy, and I just did various things while I was in Kingston. Like I would. I started tweeting, I guess. But then I also started listening to a lot of comedy podcasts, like Comedy Bang Bang.
Comedy Bang Bang.
Back when it was called, yeah.
Hey, young man.
It was called Comedy Death Ray Radio.
Oh, wow. You were old school. Yeah, that's the origies.
Yeah. And stuff like The Best Show. And I, just started trying to, I had writing more comedy. So I had, a couple of humor pieces published. And I actually published my own zine, my own humor zine.
Very cool. What was that called?
It was called Inspirational Decency.
Nice.
It was basically just like a bunch of like little pieces that I wrote and decided to, and when I say publish, I literally mean like just printed out and stapled together. And I left a bunch of them just for free at this, the local bookstore in Kingston called Novel Idea. And I did a bit of a launch there as well. And it was a lot of fun.
That's fun. You had a zine launch.
So I done things. Yeah. So I did little comedy things in town here and there. Nothing really performance-wise for the most part, then that gave me the idea. Like around that time I heard that Humber had a comedy program, and so I thought, well, that might be a good way to try my hand at that and see what kind of career I can come up with in that particular realm. So that's what led me to Toronto. After my fourth year was done at Queen's, I decided to pack up and move here.
So you still wanted to stay in school, just comedy school?
I guess so. Yeah. It seemed like an easy way to, because I'd wanted to do sketch originally. Stand-up was not something I'd thought of much. But I thought, well, it seems like a good way to meet people to do that with. And then once I started, I still did some sketch, but stand-up became a bit more of a prominent thing. So I started doing that a bit more.
That's interesting that you sort of switched from sketch to stand-up. What were sort of your sketch influences, and then what made you switch over to stand-up? Was you just gravitated towards it?
Yeah, well, I guess initially, like sketch-wise, obviously I'd grown up with like Kids in the Hall and SNL and Mr. Show and the sort of the usual suspects. And then the thing about Humber is like you have to, like, they have classes in every kind of aspect. So you'll have stand-up and sketch and improv classes and all of that. And so when I started trying stand-up, mainly for class, and then ultimately just at various open mics, I found that I just really liked it, and so I just kept doing that a bit more. And I guess that was kind of my main thing for a while. I still did. I ended up doing sketch with people that I went to school with, but it wasn't the main thing that I thought it might be. So that just kind of fell into that just through practice and necessity.
Pretty cool. So let's get into it. Who were some of your classmates? Anybody that we'd know?
Well, anyone in the Toronto comedy scene or who hangs around at least might know Ryan Dillon. He's a very funny kid just from Maps. Roommate for a couple years, actually, and who I did sketch with. And he's in LA right now. He works as a writing assistant, and he writes for shows there. Like, he's written for Man Seeking Woman and Schitt's Creek. Yeah, and other shows that haven't come out yet even. So
cool.
He's doing great.
Yeah, Ryan Dillon. Shout out.
Yeah, Selby Nixon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Who, he and I are both part of the Ossington Comedy Collective that put on shows every Monday at the Ossington.
Great venue. Everyone check it out if you're in and around Toronto. Comedy at the Ossington.
It's great.
Yes, it goes great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Beyond that, I mean, my buddy Matt, who I did sketch with for a little while, and then Matt Caldwell.
Mm-hmm.
And,
shout out.
I should mention his last name. Why not?
Yeah, we can do that.
And then Kyle Andrews, who does a lot of stand-up in the city. He was in my year too.
Nice.
Ben Boschman.
There we go. Now we're talking.
He dropped out before the second year, but he's currently on Kim's Convenience.
Yes, he's on the CBC hit show, Kim's Convenience.
That's right, yeah. And so, yeah, he was an alum during his first year anyway. And, there are a bunch of others, whose names escape me, and then a bunch of other people, obviously, who have not done comedy since graduating.
Yeah. No, there's always those folks, too, right? Those are it happens. It just happens.
It does, yeah. Well, right. I mean, I got an English degree, and I'm not teaching English or really doing anything involved with it. So,
perfect example right there.
There you go.
All right, so that just about brings us up to modern day times, right? How long ago did you graduate? A few years ago?
Graduated 2013, so almost 5 years ago now.
All right.
And since then, I've just done more stand-up, although I've fallen off on that a bit more lately, and I've kind of focused more on writing stuff. Mm-hmm. And so basically, last few years, just basically writing. I tried to, my hand at improv and done some sketch. I was in a troupe with a few of my classmates.
What was the troupe called? I love to hear what the troupe names are.
Well, while I was in school, I was in this troupe called Daddy's Precious Children.
Okay.
And then that morphed into a smaller group called Swimsuit Issues.
All right.
And I was doing some sketch with my buddy Matt. Yeah, I guess it would have been last year or so, and we were called Double Judo.
All right.
And, I was doing improv for a while with a very funny comedian named Jordan Brown, and our duo was called Teenage Turtles.
That's a good one.
So wacky names abound in my life, I guess.
That's what improv's all about. The wacky names.
What it's all about, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about names that, are truly embarrassing to say out loud. If you're in an improv or sketch troupe and you're not completely humiliated to tell your relatives the name of your troupe, then you're not doing it right.
Yeah, that's true. Improv people have the best resumes.
Yeah. I do find a lot of sketch troupe names and stuff. I think the best kind of sketch troupe name is one that's it's not completely embarrassing. It also does not include any references to laughing or giggling or whatever.
Yeah.
And also, it's not the kind of name that would be a band name. So, if you think of Picnic Face,
right? That's
a perfect example because that would be a terrible band name.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a great sketch troupe name, and it's not the kind of name where it's oh God, oh, you in a troupe? Yeah. Oh, what's it called? Oh, brother. No, it's that's not an embarrassing name, certainly. So.
Yep, that's a great one. All right, well, I think that brings us up to your story.
Very much covers, yeah.
And the story that you have provided for us that you will share with us in a moment is titled Whiplash Walkout, the Chris Rock Story.
That's right.
All right, hit us with this tale.
Okay, so this would have been October of 2014. Humber put on Humber College, where I did that comedy degree. They put on a print humor conference in New York at the People's Improv Theater. And so I attended this with a few other alumni. And it would have been the day after the conference. I stayed on a couple days after. I attended the show Whiplash at UCB Theater in Chelsea in Manhattan.
Famous show.
It was me. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's a long-running stand-up show. I think the Leo Allen, who's this kind of legendary New York comedy writer and stand-up. He typically is hosted it, although he wasn't hosting it this particular night. I guess he was in LA working there. Anyway, so it's basically a show where veteran comedians can stop in and do some new material. So I attended the show with my friend Danny Dilbaugh, who I mentioned earlier, and this other guy, Jared Laxer, who I went to Humber with and who now does stand up in the New York, New Jersey area. And he was from there originally and went back after school. So anyway, we attend the show, and Aparna Nancharla is guest hosting.
Cool.
So about a couple comedians in, she announces, all right, so your next comedian, he's got a new movie coming out called Top 5. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chris Rock.
Woo!
And we'd heard vague rumblings that a famous comedian was going to be stopping by, but we didn't know who. So this was great, and we were like the third row, we were pretty close to the stage.
Nice.
So yeah, this is pretty exciting. You can imagine how excited everyone in the room was. They're losing it, and we're like, this is awesome. This is going to be so fun. So a couple minutes in, and Chris Rock starts out. He's like, all right, well, hosting SNL next week. Not sure what I'm going to talk about. They got Jim Carrey this week, but I think I can take him. So he's like, he starts out, and what I'd heard about him, the way he tries new material, is that he doesn't do it with all the Chris Rock energy and pizzazz that you would see on a special. Mm-hmm. He really didn't give it much in the way of a forceful delivery. It's very laid back, very kind of laconic. He just wants to see if the joke itself is fundamentally sound and if it works on its own. And then he kind of adds, the nuances of his delivery to it after that.
Yeah.
So he's very slow in his delivery. He's very relaxed. So he starts off with this joke about how, whenever I want to give a homeless person money, I feel good about myself, but then I'll realize what a piece of shit I really am. So this is like, wow, this is interesting. It's kind of dark, but it was like, wow, this is seems like it's going somewhere interesting. And then as he starts this joke, he notices a woman in the front row filming him, and he says, without any real anger, he's like, "Whoa, don't film me, bitch!" And then people are like, "Whoa!" And he's like, "Oh, it's look okay. Well, sorry, I called you bitch, but you were filming me, so just don't film me." And all right, so she puts her phone away. No harm, no foul, I guess. And so he starts back into the joke, and then 30 seconds later, he sees a guy in the front row who has his phone up in front of him, and he says, "Well, what did I just say? Don't film me." And the guy's like, "Oh, it wasn't." And so Chris Rock goes, "All right, forget it." So he puts the microphone down on the stool that's on stage, and he walks off.
Oh.
And it happened so quickly that all the air is just completely taken out of the room. Because you can imagine just how heightened everyone's excitement was, and just how quickly all of that evaporated.
Yeah, one joke in, and all of a sudden, your great story.
Yeah, it was stunning. It was, none of us could quite believe what happened. And at one point, the guy who had his phone up in front of him just kind of said out loud, "Should I leave?" And no one said yes, but clearly that was the
vibe from everyone's face.
Yeah, and so he ended up leaving, and but yeah, before he left, Aparna Nancharla had to come out, and she's like, she looks at him and says, "Oh no, why did you do that?" And so she kind of had to talk everyone through it. Like, man, everyone just felt like,
disappointment.
Like we were back in high school, and we were like, acted up in front of an assembly. Even though
like everybody gets in trouble now.
Yeah, we all kind of felt like, I mean, certainly I felt weirdly guilty even though I hadn't done anything, but so she had to talk everyone through it. Like, okay, well, here's what happened. Here's maybe why in the future, like, this is a good
learning experience for you guys as an audience and audience members.
Yeah, you kind of have to just live in the moment and don't worry about capturing this.
Yeah, I think that's the real lesson. Just enjoy the moment, right? Be in the moment. Like Chris Rock's on stage. You don't need the video of that. When are you going to watch that?
Yeah.
You just need to know that he was on stage, and the memory will be your video.
Exactly, yeah. And the thing is, from Chris Rock's point of view, I mean, this is brand new material. Maybe he doesn't want it. I mean, he obviously doesn't want to put up on YouTube or something yet. So he had every right to be upset and to leave. I mean, he was just trying to, preserve his act really, and like just preserve himself as a comedian from like letting potentially half-baked material get out there and have it reflect badly on him. So so basically she kind of talked us through that and said, okay, so that was unfortunate that happened, but hey, what do you say we do the rest of the show and we'll have fun? And finally, the morale that managed to get back, managed to be restored, and people, we managed to soldier on. And I was going to say, the very next comedian was this British comedian named Josie Wong, who you might have heard of. And so she comes out and she's like, well, this is just a great opportunity for me. And so, everyone, that obviously got a pretty big pop. And, now that had been acknowledged, people, it was almost okay, we can continue now. And look, we've acknowledged what's happened, and finally we can have the good time we thought we were going to have.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say shout out to Aparna for handling that. She knew that we had to talk it through to get to the light at the end of the tunnel from that dark moment. So it's just a knowledgeable MC move, I'd say. Yeah,
it was very well handled, and couldn't have handled it better. But it was just one of those things where like it's a great story in a way, but also it's like I still kind of would have preferred saying a full Chris Rock set,
especially with brand new material.
And that might have ended up in his SNL monologue. I will say when I watched SNL 2 weeks later, his bit about feeling like a piece of shit, even though he gives a homeless man money, did not make it in.
Okay.
So I guess maybe he tested that elsewhere and decided like, nah, that's not ready.
Didn't make the cut.
Did not make the cut. Yeah.
Well,
and then I saw Top 5 when it came out, and I'm still trying to figure out what I actually thought. Parts of it were fun, and parts of it were insane.
So it was a weird experience.
It was, It was a little surreal, but it's still a hell of a story. And I guess it was cool to see him, even if it was just for 2 minutes.
Yeah, I guess that's another moral of the story. Like, just be happy that you had that experience. You got to see him from 3 rows back.
Mm-hmm.
For a couple minutes.
But still, I mean, it's not the same experience as seeing a full Chris Rock theater show or something. But
that's true. Well, the theater show probably gets the emphasis. They get that polish. They get that polished material.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something I might still like to do one day. Is because I've got certain comics I still haven't seen live who I would like to, and obviously he's right up there. So
bucket list. All right, who we got? Who are your top 3 that you haven't seen?
Oh, geez. Well, let me think. I guess it'd be him, and then oh god, I've seen a bunch. I mean, I've managed to see people like Todd Barry, and I've seen Maria Bamford. So I guess I've seen a lot of my faves.
Yeah.
I guess maybe. Oh, I guess maybe he's the one. Maybe he's like the white whale.
Wow, yeah, he is the one. Put him on the list.
On Moby Dick. All right,
cool. Well, thank you very much for sharing that great tale of intrigue and woe.
No problem.
And now we get into the tweets. So you have selected a couple of tweets for us, and I will read the first one. For sale, the Hemingway baby shoes joke format used 1 billion times.
Yeah.
Suck it, joke formats.
I just kind of, I did not go through my entire Twitter archive, certainly. I think it's probably safe to say that, I remember a few years ago, there was this thing where if you could request your tweets, a list of all of your tweets from Twitter, and they would send it to you in a long URL and also in a spreadsheet,
Excel format.
And
it's your archive.
Basically, yeah. And so, I looked at them and I was like, oh man, a lot of these are really bad. I thought I was being really funny at the time because I started Twitter it was been almost 9 years ago now. And it was kind of the first sort of humor writing, I guess, I ever did consistently. And so, obviously, as you can imagine, if it's not very good, some of them became my first stand-up jokes just because I was like, I'll just try these. These are all recent tweets, which I.
So you just scrolled back through the TL and picked a few choice cuts for us a few months, on so anyway, the podcast.
With that having been said, probably funnier than my earlier stuff. But anyway, it's just the Hemingway baby shoes joke. I mean, you say it a lot on Twitter now, and it was just one of those things where I would maybe see that kind of a joke with that format once or twice every now and then. And then suddenly it became really ubiquitous for whatever reason. It's just one of those Twitter things where everyone seizes on something and it becomes just unavoidable. And I felt kind of bad because a lot of those jokes are funny. I know, I mentioned Ben Boschman, and I think he tweeted one very recently, just before I did that.
Uh-oh.
And so hopefully he didn't think I was bashing him because his was funny. And a lot of them were, but I was just seeing so many of them. It's like, man. So it just inspired me to do that. I hope. A lot of my tweets, I worry, just make me seem like a bit more of a crank or a misanthrope than I really am.
I think it's a funny comedic voice that you have. It's very unique, sort of a little bit bordering on absurd, but definitely a little curmudgeonly.
Yeah, I would say, absurd, more absurd for the most part than curmudgeonly. But every now and then it's like, all right, maybe I just wasn't in a great mood when I tweeted that. But so that was the story behind that one.
Pretty good. And we should say Ben Boschman is on Twitter at Ben Bosch, Beauch. Check him out.
I do follow him. He's very good at Twitter.
He's very funny, yes. All right. So you got that second one you want to hit us with that?
The second one, let's see. This is from November 5th of last year. My son loves daylight savings because it means he and his friends get an extra hour to beat me in the face with Toronto Marlies ministicks.
A lot of great references. Toronto Marlies, the local affiliate of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and ministicks, like a ubiquitous Canadian toy. Everyone had ministicks growing up.
When I was a kid, I had a Spokane Chiefs ministicks. Spokane Chiefs. I'm from Manitoba, and so the most I guess the closest sort of junior hockey team were the Brandon Wheat Kings.
Oh yeah,
which are they're in the Western Hockey League, which is the major sort of junior league for all the Western provinces. So Manitoba, and then west to BC, and then a few American Pacific Northwest teams as well. So and one of them is Spokane, and I just went to a game once, a Brandon Wheat Kings game, and they didn't have any Wheat Kings sticks left, so I just chose that randomly, and my friends who I was at the game with were like, they suck. Why did you get that? I don't know.
You just want the souvenir.
Yeah, but that inspired a lot of fun bouts of living room hockey between my sister and I. Our family had a piano in the living room, and so we would basically use the piano the one leg and then the other leg as that was the goal.
Oh, the perfect built-in ministicks net.
Absolutely, and then we would grab a huge wad of Kleenex and wrap tape around it, and then that was your ball. And
homemade ball.
While away, we'd while away the hours on Sunday afternoons playing Kleenex tape hockey.
Nice.
With ministicks. Yeah.
Classic Canadian pastime. I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate. A little slice of Canadiana for you.
Yeah, I've never been to a Marlies game, which is too bad because the Humber campus, the Humber Lakeshore campus, is right around the corner from the facility where the Toronto Marlies or the Leafs practice there.
Right.
And the Marlies have their home games there.
Is it the Ricoh Coliseum?
That's right.
It's the Ricoh Coliseum. There we go.
Etobicoke, out in Etobicoke, yeah.
Google Maps it if you're from out of town.
That's right. It's quite I've never been in.
It's just on the edge of the highway.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. It's a great story.
And I don't know. I don't know what inspired that. I mean, obviously, daylight savings inspired it. Other than that, I do have a lot of tweets where I pretend that I have either a son or a daughter or or a wife. That I really have. Yeah.
Yeah, your family, you and your family have a very estranged relationship.
Yeah, and if you were to take all of my tweets about my family and try to sort of match them up or corroborate them, it would be like, okay, yeah, your family history doesn't make any sense.
Some continuity issues.
Yeah. So your wife, your kids just died in this tweet. And then suddenly they're alive 3 months later. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of, I'm not exactly building a world with all my tweets.
Oh, well, very good. All right, now let's get to the third tweet that you have selected. And it is, do you want to read it?
Yeah, I can read it. If you want. Yeah.
Goof Troop.
It says, this is from November 26th. It says, I keep at least 12 condoms in my Goof Troop fanny pack at all times.
Do you have a Goof Troop fanny pack?
I don't, and I never did. I assume they existed, right?
I think so. We need to get on eBay.
Fanny packs were all the rage the early 90s, and Goof Troop was a popular show. It would have been pretty unwise of the people at Disney to not have made Goof Troop fanny packs. They would have flown off the shelves if. So that must have been a thing.
I think so.
And I just I like the notion of. I just like the juxtaposition of something kind of adult and responsible with a Goof Troop fanny pack,
Love it. Love the idea of a Goof Troop fanny pack. Great.
Yeah, stocked with condoms. And at least 12. I guess that's...
Is that how they come in a pack? It's like a full pack is what you're trying to say. Like out of the box, but...
Oh, man, it's been a while. I might not even know anymore. Anyway... Yeah, that's super prepared. So I just
always be prepared.
I just like some, and it is great to think of someone who being very like sex positive and also very responsible, who also has a Goof Troop fanny pack.
Serious into Goof Troop.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to put away childish things when you become an adult.
You can repurpose things. I mean, if you're using them, get extra use out of them. All right, thank you for those great tweets, and everyone should be following Darren on Twitter. I don't know if I've said your handle yet, but it is at Darren D. Springer. All right, used to be Flint Beverage. Remember those days? Remember the olden?
Yeah,
that was your first one.
That was my first handle. It was when I first joined Twitter. I was watching a lot of The Sopranos. I was going through all the episodes on DVD, and I noticed that in one episode, an actor who had played an FBI agent. I don't think he even had a speaking role. He was named Flint Beverage.
What?
And so I thought that was pretty amazing, and so that became my Twitter handle.
That's good. I had no idea what the reasoning behind Flint Beverage was, and I always wondered.
Yeah, it was in. I checked on his IMDb a few times. I think he's still acting. I think he's...
Like the actor's name is Flint Beverage.
Flint Beverage, yeah. I don't yeah, I never heard from him about, saying, hey, can I please have this handle? So I don't know if he's even on Twitter or if he just put his middle initial in when took his Twitter handle.
That'd be so cool if you just took the handle and then he had to contact you. It was like, can I have my handle? It's me, Flint Beveridge from The Sopranos.
If he had done that, I would have absolutely let him have it.
I mean, for an autographed Flint Beveridge headshot.
Oh, yeah, I'm no fool. I mean, then I flipped that for...
It's an investment in your future.
Right Guy who played FBI agent number 3 on a season 6 episode of The Sopranos.
Well, very cool. All right, now we get into the picks from others. And your first pick is from great popular tweeter Connor Omalley at Connor with an E _ O'Malley. And
so anyone who doesn't know about him, he used to appear regularly on Late Night with Seth Meyers. I think he used to write for them as well. And he's made a lot of videos on his own. He had a really funny web series with this guy Joe Pera called How to Make It in USA, where Joe Pera played himself as a stand-up, and Connor O'Malley played his agent, who was completely insane. That's really and so he's done a little online projects and stuff. A lot of that kind of thing.
Yeah, and his videos are super crazy. Everyone got to go check some of those out. Just Google some of those videos right now because they're nuts.
And he was huge on Vine when that was a thing.
Yeah, really big on Vine. R.I.P.
He'd do this thing on Vine where he would go up to rich guys on the street, like they'd just be in their cars or whatever, and just basically scream at them. These things just basically offering to sacrifice himself to make them more money or stuff like that.
He's like, how do I get money?
And so his tweets are the kind of tweets where there's no, after a while on Twitter, you just get sick of jokes, because there's a while where, everyone suddenly, you would see the typical setup punchline jokes, whereas his tweets are just funny things to say. There's no setup. The setup is the joke, and then the joke is also the joke. So this is a tweet from New Year's Eve.
Oh, yeah.
And it says, at midnight, my 42-year-old roommate Brian is going to drown me in the LA River. And then I should say he followed that up after midnight by tweeting, Brian ended up picking up a shift at Maggiano's last night.
This explains why he didn't drown in the LA River.
And I think one of the reasons I like that is just the sheer casualness with which he brings up the fact that he's going to die, and also the fact that it sounds like his 42-year-old roommate Brian is going to do him a favor, almost as if he asked him to do this.
Yeah.
And also, I love the fact that he's 42 years old. I don't know what it is about. It's funnier than being 40 years old. Certainly funnier than being,
Yeah, and it's like 20s. Inconsequential information to the tweet. It's completely irrelevant.
He has no bearing on the fact that he's going to drown him, but the fact that he's 42 years old, somehow it's just the kind of detail that makes it that much funnier.
That's right.
So I guess it's just that's the kind of tweet that I tend to appreciate the most, is just the kind where it's just sort of an absurdity, but not completely, it's still somehow grounded in reality.
It's grounded in reality. It's still out of left field. It's kind of unexpected. That's Connor O'Malley, everybody.
Indeed, yeah.
All right, so you got 2 more tweets here that we can go through. This one, I hadn't heard of this person. Dan Licata, is that correct?
Yeah, he's a Chicago comedian. I hadn't heard of him until fairly recently. I just saw someone retweeted him, and I thought it was really funny, so I started following him. I know he does stand up in Chicago, and I think he's got some stuff online too. And his tweets are generally, he kind of mines the same territory as Connor O'Malley in a sense, in the sense that he's similarly absurd. But his tweets tend to be less angry. Like Connor Omalley, his Twitter voice, he likes to take on like the voice often of like a completely insane, angry guy who is living a nightmarish life. Whereas Dan Licata tends to be a bit more cheerful than that. Like even his darker tweets are like his persona seems almost more innocent. It's almost like just a completely insane 12-year-old wrote them.
Yeah. And this tweet is really funny.
Yeah. And he I should say I hope I'm capturing his use of grammar, which is, again, seems to almost come from like an insane 12-year-old. So there's no capitalization to speak of or whatever. But anyway, so this tweet is from November 28th. I just want to say for the record that if Mr. Bean ever came up to me with his goofy-ass bullshit, I would lay his scrawny ass out. You think I'm going to let some dumbass weirdo ruin a wine tasting for me? Get the fuck out.
Classic. That's a great one.
Yeah, I mean, like I grew up with Mr. Bean, as a lot of Canadians did, I bet, right? And so, I mean, obviously his main persona is of this like lovable goofball who, you know, would never hurt anyone. And so,
but he's always in like a class or like a wine tasting. That's always the perfect scenario, Mr. Bean scenario.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's like a scenario where he can get in the most trouble, but then like it's typically just he's only affecting himself. So the notion of someone looking at Mr. Bean as a threat that would need to be taken out is so funny to me. And yeah, the fact that he chose wine tasting for the tweet, I thought was the perfect choice.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, follow Dan Licata. That's the main. That's what you're gonna get.
That's what you're gonna get. And his handle is at Dan Licata Sucks. That's Licata. All right.
So I want to point out he followed that tweet up 2 weeks later with a tweet that read, "As much as Bean pissed me off, I will say Johnny English is funny as hell though." 3 smiling emojis, like Mr. Bean with a gun. So that's also my favorite thing that some people will do on Twitter is like follow up a tweet that they tweeted like months before with added information that is completely unnecessary.
Yeah, that's a good way to recycle the life of a tweet.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we get to your final and third selection that you have selected for us. Yeah. And it is from one of my favorites, James Hartnett.
Yeah, I mean, I figured I should have some sort of local flavor in this list.
Yes, and I appreciate that. And James Hartnett is one of my favorite local comedians, just so very funny. And everyone should be following him at James Hartnett.
So, yeah, this tweet is from November 13th. I knew it was a mistake to wear shorts to Father's birthday party. My cousins are already tittering about it, and Grandma frowned at me. Father will not be pleased.
Father will not be pleased.
Father will not be pleased. Yeah, so he's had a few tweets like that where he'll tweet in the voice of this weird, like almost like vaguely religious, like emotionally repressed person. Like just oddly formal, like father, grandma.
Yeah.
I've seen a few tweets from him where, he'll tweet in that particular voice. And, I love it because even like you just suggest like a whole world beyond that tweet where it's like, what is this speaker's life like?
What are they wearing? Something drab, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the fact that it's his father's birthday party, so you'd think you could wear whatever you want. Like, he doesn't make any mention of it being a formal party, but he still feels weird guilt over wearing shorts.
Very remorseful over his wardrobe choice for father's birthday party.
And also, how many cousins does he have? Why does everyone care that he wore shorts? What should he have worn instead? Pants or even something more
slacks.
Formal?
Definitely.
The fact that his grandma frowning at him is something that
that's like the worst.
Set him into a tizzy. Yeah,
grandma frowned at me.
Yeah, So yeah, that's what you're gonna, the kind of thing you're gonna get from James
And
Hartnett.
if you've seen James live, this makes it so much more funny because you can hear it in his voice or one of his crazy characters' voices, which he does
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
well. Can't recommend him enough. James Hartnett, love that guy. All right.
And can I
Oh,
add
yes.
an honorable mention?
Oh yeah, honorable mention.
I just from even more of a local flavor. He doesn't tweet us too much anymore. He does tweet every now and then, but like Tim Gilbert, who is
Yes.
another Laugh Sabbath guy. He had a tweet. I mean, I couldn't find it when I was looking. This is from a few years ago. It's from, I think he posted it New Year's Eve 4 years ago, so I couldn't actually find the tweet itself. But I know it from heart. This was probably a month and a half after Paul Walker died.
Okay.
And so on New Year's Eve of that particular year, Tim Gilbert tweeted, surprised to see so many people going out and having fun tonight. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only one who truly cared about Paul Walker. Which is great because there had been so many Paul Walker jokes. And, not that there's anything wrong with that, but a lot of them were just like, I guess he went too fast and too furious. And I thought that was probably, it was easily the best Paul Walker joke I'd seen. Just because, I mean, it's not even a mockery of Paul Walker per se, but just of the way. It's a
satirical take on the Paul Walker memification.
Yeah, and just the way that, like, after a celebrity dies, like, there's that sort of almost performative concern where it's like, oh, wow, this guy was my favorite actor. And it's like, wow, really?
How do I make a celebrity death about me?
Yeah. And that was sort of the ultimate way to do that. It's like the notion of a guy staying home alone on New Year's Eve because he's too distraught over Paul Walker dying.
From months earlier.
Yeah, so that's a classic I wanted to bring up. Follow Tim Gilbert too.
At Gilbert Tim.
I believe so. Yeah, he doesn't. Like I said,
he'll tweet in bursts. You got to catch him. Yeah, you got to catch him on a right day. And sometimes, like the award ceremonies, he'll click in for that. So
absolutely,
it's worth the wait.
He's the guy if you're watching the Oscars or the Grammys or whatever, he's the guy to follow when you're doing that.
Yeah, he keeps it hella real and angry. Talk about curmudgeonly online, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. But more funny than anything.
Right, yes. So definitely everyone check him out, and an honorable mention indeed. All right, Darren, now we get into the questions submitted via Twitter. And remember to follow at FOTS Pod and send a question for a future guest. And the first question comes from friend of the show, Pigeon Fancier at Isabel Zautun. And
very, very funny person, very, very nice person.
Yes, she's very nice and funny, and everyone should check out her episode. She came to my house. We did it live in my house. It was great.
Wow.
Great having her.
Cool.
So thank you for the questions, Isabel. And she asks, number 1, what is it like knowing me in real life? Is it the sweet blessing most would expect?
Yeah, I would say so. The thing is, I don't, since I don't do that much stand-up anymore, so I don't see her out obviously as much as I would have at one point, but yeah, I would say it absolutely is. Yeah, she's a very nice person, and yes, everyone should follow her on Twitter. She's a very stylish person too, always very well dressed. So
yes,
I would say follow her on Instagram as well.
Yes.
For that and other reasons, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, follow her on Instagram. She has her show, Hack Couture, her monthly comedy show that incorporates fashion and comedy. And yes, very stylish individual indeed. So yes, Isabel, it is a sweet blessing knowing you online and IRL. Now, her second question for you, Darren. Considering how many celebrity wives you've had, can you provide some marriage advice to us plebs? Is it plebes or plebs? It's plebes.
Well, I mean, it's plebes. Yeah, plebes. Marriage advice. Well, I mean, okay, so I've had 5 celebrity wives.
All right, list them.
Okay, well, I mean, the most obvious one, Callista Flockhart.
Yeah, that's the one that everybody knows.
Yeah, that was a pretty short burst. It was only a couple years.
But highly publicized.
Highly publicized. I guess I should say, if you are going to marry a celebrity, like just know like before you go in, that they're not yours. Like you will never matter as much to them as the public does.
Oh.
And that's something that I wasn't prepared for with Callista, because I married her towards, the sort of fever pitch of Ally McBeal's
Dancing Baby.
the Dancing Baby thing. Yeah. So right at the fever pitch of that show's popularity. And I was too young to get married. I was 18. So
that's young.
Yeah, I think that was another element that really, I should have waited a few more years to marry anyone, let alone a huge TV star.
Yeah.
So, so a lot of resentment built because she was obviously very busy and didn't have time to go to me. And, I'm 18. I'm really insecure. So that was just, that was a bad idea.
Wild
so there's
days.
that. And then, of course, number 2, of course, everyone remembers when I was married to Mary Louise Parker.
Mary Louise Parker.
That was 3 years. That one was a little better. That one ended just because we just found we didn't have much in common. I was a big fan of DC hardcore, and she was a bigger fan of LA hardcore.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that was a pretty irreconcilable difference. We actually listed that in our divorce proceedings, and the judge was like, "Yeah, obviously." And then number 3 was Eve, the rapper Eve.
Oh, the rapper Eve.
Yeah, that was 5 years. That was good.
Whatever happened to her? She had those paw tattoos, like on her,
and she still does.
Sternum.
I assume as much. I haven't asked for proof, but I believe she still does. And that one ended. I would say the main thing I learned from that was just, the hip hop world is so competitive, and I probably shouldn't have put out a competing mixtape. I dropped it the same day as her.
No,
it sold great. And the thing is, it kind of overshadowed her, and I think there was some jealousy on her part.
I mean, yeah, that'll drive a wedge.
Mm-hmm. It really did.
That's unfortunate.
So yeah, that's what I learned from that. It's just, have separate lives. Like if 2 rappers, I just don't think can coexist.
Well, I love that you're getting great lessons out of each of these. Like one lesson learned per marriage.
Yeah, the other 2 were like Nia Vardalos.
Greek wedding.
Yeah, it was actually the inspiration for my Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Right.
And that one didn't work just because she cheated on me.
What?
She cheated on me with Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah, the
Hollywood's golden boy, Tom Hanks.
Yeah. She's begged me not to say that in public, but
this is a scoop.
I shouldn't censor myself for her. I mean,
no, I'm leaving it in. Looking at my engineer, we're leaving that in.
And then the 5th, of course, was the marriage I'm in right now to Shelley Long.
Shelley Long, beloved comedic actress.
And the great thing about Shelley is that, look, she went through the whole thing where she left Cheers a little sooner than most people thought she would have. So, yeah, she obviously had a rocky career after that. And so by the time I met her, she'd been through a lot. She'd experienced a lot of, regret and ups and downs. So, so she was ready to really just find someone who wasn't going to play games. And I remember the first time I met her, I marched right up to her and I said, would it bother you if I dropped a mixtape? And
again, with the mixtapes.
And she was like, like a cassette tape of songs for me? That would be lovely. And that's when I knew it was going to work, because clearly she was not up on her hip hop terminology.
Wow. And it has worked out to this day.
Yeah. I mean, she has the odd acting gig, and we just we stay in. We watch a lot of PBS, and we just make a lot of grilled fish, and we go. We play tennis with Ted Danson, and
just a simple life. Sam and Diane. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, very good. Thank you.
That was a very long answer.
That was a great answer. Thank you for sharing that with us. And Isabel has one last question.
Oh, greedy.
Why won't you fight me?
Well, if we're talking a physical fight, I can think of a few reasons. The chief among them being A, she is a woman, and B, she could probably beat me up fairly easily. We did get into an actual fight. As far as like some kind of verbal fight or like a Twitter fight, she has so many followers and I have so few that I just feel like I would be swarmed.
Yeah, they'd both be lopsided, no matter what the fight.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you very much to Isabel for sending those great questions, and we keep moving on. We got another question here from Llama in a Tux at Llama in a Tux, and he asks, how much of your buried gold have you invested in cryptocurrency?
That'd be none. I actually, and I think the recent cryptocurrency crash has vindicated me.
Yes, good decision.
It just seemed like a fad, much like actual paper currency. I never invested in that either.
Still a fad, yep.
I pay for everything with gold. It's made my life pretty difficult, but I believe that when the paper system finally collapses along with
vindicated again.
Yeah, it's a bit of a longer vindication process than with the cryptocurrency, but I believe I will emerge victorious from my war with the bills.
It's a long con game, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Llama, for that question. And we got another question. It comes from friend of the show, Timmy at the Timmy Toes. And he asks, what is the rotating stick thing on the blinds called? I mean, that's a great question.
It's actually called the Schlondorf.
And can you spell that for us?
Schlorndorff. It's named after the German director Volker Schlondorf, who directed such movies as The Tin Drum. He invented it. He was just sick of having to actually take the blinds themselves and turn them down.
Each one.
When he went to sleep at night. Yeah.
Each individual one.
Isn't there some way that I can just do them all in one go? And so he thought, okay, a string. Okay, I'll attach a string running along all of them. So, but then how do I work the string? Well, that's when he came up with the
He invented it, and they will name this after me.
That's right. That's what he shouted.
And they did.
That's a Schlondorf. So, bring that up the next time you're at a party and just watch everyone flock to you, wondering, hey, who's this guy who knows so much about
secret that one away for your next trivia night. And thank you very much, Timmy, for the great question. And we got a couple more questions here before we wrap it up. And this one is from friend of the show, Nick Flanagan. And he asks, is your last name working out for you? Is this some sort of inside joke?
No, it's not.
It's just a funny question.
It's not one Nick has ever shared with me. It might be an inside joke just with himself.
Maybe.
But how's my last name? Maybe I would imagine he's probably referring to the fact that I share a last name with a certain daytime talk show host.
Oh, we can hear the chanting already.
Yeah, and if you're wondering, hey, has anyone with a no sense of humor ever asked you if you're related to Darren Springer? The answer is yes.
Yes.
It is a common question among people who, are not funny but think they probably could be.
Okay. We're setting the record straight. No relation. No relation.
And so I certainly, I haven't received any particular benefits from it other than hearing that joke all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. All right, now we get to the final question, and it is from my wife, and she wants to know, what's the best meal you've ever had?
Huh, geez, the best meal I've ever had. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I have a specific meal, but I can tell you that, some of my favorite dining memories have been, the holidays with my family. We kind of have like civic meals, or like we'll have like the turkey and then mashed potatoes and then, stuffing. And then my mom will sometimes make this thing like a Norwegian thing, I guess, because I'm part Norwegian.
Oh, cool. Some heritage food.
Yeah, it was Kleezel. It's called Kleezel.
Okay.
Basically what that is, it's a weird yet very tasty dish where it's like it would be bacon and bits of lard, really.
Yep, I'm in.
It's incredibly bad for you.
Yes.
But,
yeah.
It's also, and it's not something I've ever encountered anywhere other than when my mom would make it.
Okay.
It would just be reserved for special occasions.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was thinking maybe I could try, because, I mean, it's not the kind of thing you want to eat much,
It's not an everyday thing.
you don't want it as a staple for obvious reasons, but, like, yeah, maybe in the next, I don't know, maybe for Easter or something.
Looking forward to it.
It's fun to try making. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a good cook. You can never be as good as when she made it, but yeah, it's something that. So yeah, I just probably
Queasel.
anytime my mom has made Queasel.
Queasel is the answer.
Yeah.
Family dinners with Queasel. Well, thank you very much, Darren. You have answered all the questions put to you for the podcast today, and we thank you for it. All right, and now we can wrap it up, and we will promote your things. So don't forget about Ossington Comedy every Monday at 9 p.m. at the Ossington.
8 p.m.
At 8 p.m.
Yeah. When is this? If you don't mind me asking, when's it going up?
In February.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say I had one coming up, a show coming up tomorrow, but it's past, so
it's in the past. It'll happen tomorrow, right now, but when this comes out, it will have happened. That's how time works. All right,
but
so
Monday, yeah.
Yeah, check it out. Some of Toronto's best comedians performing in one of the best venues for comedy in the city, and the spot of my very first and one of few performances of open mic comedy.
Ooh.
Actually, it wasn't an open mic. It was comedy at the Ossington show. I should note that. But it was still my first time, so open mic level, let's say.
Okay, right.
Right. So, yeah, great venue. Love that spot. Everyone go check it out. And I should also mention, everyone should read your writing on the CBC Comedy. There's one article that I have a link to in the show notes, and it is entitled, National Gaslighters Association announces it doesn't exist and you're being crazy.
That's right, yeah.
That's just a hilarious article, and if you know about all the talk about gaslighting recently, it's very topical, and it's very funny, so I recommend it, and there's a link in the show notes, so I think that's it.
Thanks, yeah. It was pretty cool to see people's reactions to that and just be like, hey, Dolores, does this remind you of any admins we know? And it's like, oh, all right, I guess it's nice to see that people can relate to something you've written. Yeah, and then also I wrote something recently for this site called Unoriginal, which my friend Laura Lebo is the editor of, and it's a humor site that's very funny. And so I had a piece up there where I just talked about 3 celebrities who we lost in 2017, but who are not real, who I made up.
Nice.
Yeah.
So if everyone wants to check out Darren's writing, you can do so at those links. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I will play the theme and we'll say our goodbyes.
I guess we'll add I recorded a stand-up EP a while ago.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes.
Called The Yacht.
The Yacht. Pay what you can.
Check it out.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you.
Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode with Darren. You may, of course, check him out on Twitter at Darren D. Springer. And if you've come this far, maybe you're willing to come a bit further and follow at FOTS Pod. Please send a question for a future guest. I am at Skinner Steven. Visit StephenWSkinner.com for all the past episodes. And subscribe to get a new episode every week. Thank you to Ruby Coast for the music. And thank you, Kyle Davidson, for the theme. And thank you for listening. And have a great one.